You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/The Options Insider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. The options market can be a confusing place. Sorting through the daily avalanche of data, alerts, updates, articles, and analysis to find the most important information is an overwhelming prospect. But now you have help. Welcome to the Options News Rundown, the only program that breaks through the noise to bring you the most important news and information from the world of options. Every day, we bring you the top 5 option stories curated by the options experts at theoptionsinsider.com, the premier source for options information. The Options News Rundown is brought to you by Market Taker Mentoring, the leader in options trading education. Get trader education, daily trade ideas, and more with a free 1-week trial of Market Taker Mentoring's Live Advantage Group coaching class by visiting markettaker.com/insider. And now it's time to break through the noise. It's time for your Options News Rundown.
Good morning. Today is Tuesday, January 15th, 2019. This is your Options News Rundown. I'm Dan Passarelli. Our first story today is from investing.com. It's the top 5 things to know in the market on Tuesday. The first thing to know is bank earnings get into full swing. Market participants will focus on financial results from 2 of the U.S.'s largest banks, with J.P. Morgan and Wells Fargo reporting ahead of the opening bell. J.P. Morgan was slated to release fourth quarter earnings this morning. Analysts were forecasting earnings per share of $2.20 on revenue of $26.9 billion. Same period in 2017 had $1.76 earnings per share and $25.45 billion in revenue. Wells Fargo was set with its Q4 report this morning. Wall Street analysts expected the San Francisco-based lender to post earnings per share of $1.19 and revenue of $21.75 billion. Also on the earnings docket for today are United Healthcare, Delta Airlines as well, both set to release results earlier this morning, while United Continental is due after the close. Second thing to note today is U.S. futures pointed to a rebound pre-opening. U.S. stock futures pointed to a slightly higher open, indicating that Wall Street's most important averages were set to rebound from Monday's decline. The third thing to know today is there's some upcoming data coming. On the data front, today's calendar will bring investors the December report on producer prices at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, which should give clearer signs on the pace of inflation. Producer prices are expected to have fallen 0.1% last month, according to estimates. If confirmed, it would be the first decline in 4 months. Excluding the cost of food and fuel, core producer price inflation is projected to have risen 0.2% from a month earlier and 2.9% year on year, a tad faster than the 2.7% increase registered in November. The latest Empire State Manufacturing Survey is also due at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. That's out already. The U.S. dollar was a shade higher at 95.44, and in the bond market, U.S. Treasuries inched lower, with the benchmark 10-year note standing at 2.69%, while the yield on U.S. government bonds with 2-year maturities was at 2.52%. The fourth thing to know today is Fed speakers are eyed for rate hike hints. Markets will pay close attention to comments from Federal Reserve speakers today, watching for clues on the pace of future rate hikes through 2019 and beyond. Minneapolis Fed President Neel Kashkari is due to speak on the regional economy before the Rochester Economic Summit at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Kansas City Fed President Esther George will then speak about the economic outlook and monetary policy at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Finally, Dallas Fed President Robert Kaplan will participate in a moderated question and answer session before the Plano Chamber of Commerce annual meeting at 1:15 p.m. Eastern. After the Fed hiked rates 4 times in 2018, investors now expect the U.S. Central Bank to halt its monetary tightening policy this year as risks to the U.S. economy mount. And the fifth thing to know today is British Parliament votes on May's Brexit deal. With less than 75 days to go until Britain leaves the European Union, market participants braced for a showdown in Westminster over Prime Minister Theresa May's Brexit deal. May urged lawmakers on Monday to take a second look at her deal, but Parliament appeared set to reject it in a voting session due to start at 2 p.m. Eastern. That leaves the prospect of a collapse of the current government, a disorderly exit from the bloc, or even the entire Brexit process being scrapped altogether over the coming weeks. The pound edged lower at the start of what is expected to be a highly volatile day, with the pound dollar dipping to 1.2845. Our second story is a follow-up giving some information on JP Morgan Q4 results and how they missed forecasts as volatility hits the bond business. This is an investing.com article. Shares in JP Morgan Chase & Co. moved lower in pre-market trade on Tuesday after a weak end to the year in its bond and currency trading business made its fourth quarter revenue and earnings miss analyst estimates. The largest U.S. lender reported revenue of $26.8 billion, just below expectations for $26.9 billion. Adjusted earnings per share were $1.98, also missing consensus for $2.20. Revenue in the fixed income currencies and commodities businesses fell an underlying 18% from a year earlier, reflecting the volatility in global markets toward the end of 2018. Chairman and Chief Executive Officer Jamie Dimon stated in the earnings release that 2018 was a strong year with record revenue and income, even as volatility and lower market levels impacted fourth quarter results. Wow, he can spin it. Our third story today is from Reuters.com. CME plans to launch e-auction for U.S. crude oil exports. CME Group said on Tuesday it plans to launch an electronic auction platform with U.S. energy firm Enterprise Product Partners LP in March to sell U.S. spot crude oil export cargoes. The United States became the world's largest oil producer last year as shale production hit new highs, encouraging exchanges and pricing agencies to launch new mechanisms to allow companies to price and hedge U.S. oil exports. Enterprise will offer light-sweet crude oil from Midland, Texas, to be loaded at the Enterprise Houston Ship Channel Terminal in the first auction scheduled to be held in early March, CME said in a statement. And our final story today is a follow-up here on what we talked about earlier from Investing.com. U.S. producer prices fall more than expected in December. Producer price inflation in the U.S. fell for the first time in 4 months in December, while core prices declined unexpectedly, official data showed on Tuesday. The data underlined expectations that the Federal Reserve can be patient on future rate hikes, given that inflation remains stable. Producer prices declined by a seasonally adjusted 0.2% last month, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, worse than forecasts for a drop of 0.1%. Year over year, the Producer Price Index rose 2.5%, in line with expectations. The core Producer Price Index slipped by a seasonally adjusted 0.1%, disappointing forecasts for a gain of 0.2%. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is news you can use for today, Tuesday, January 15th, 2019, your Options News Rundown. I'm Dan Passarelli, Trade Smart, and have a great day.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.